FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is May 1st, 2017. That is a national holiday. If you are a Democrat, progressive, socialist, communist, you should be out in the streets now. If you have to work for a living, figure out how to invest, and assume that the government will not come to your rescue, then you're listening to the right people. Eddie Ghabour is with us. He's with E Advisors Group, LLC. And Eddie is bullish today, especially after reviewing the proposed outline of the Trump tax reform proposal. Eddie, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we have this proposal, and I have to say, I'm a cynic when it comes to government doing anything right. If they pick up my garbage Tuesday mornings, I think it's a success. But once you get past that, you got to wonder what these jokers are doing. And number one, there's a proposal to reduce the corporate tax rate, the top corporate tax rate, to 15%. And to, if I could coin a term from our newly inaugurated president, that is huge, isn't it?
It sure is. It's big in many, many ways. I think the biggest thing that's overlooked on this corporate tax rate, everyone always, when they hear corporate tax reform, they just assume it applies to the very large companies only, your Apples of the world. But where I think the biggest impact is going to be felt is in the small mom and pop businesses that are taxed as have LLCs that have pass-through entities where their profit at the end of the year gets taxed at their current tax level versus this 15%, which would be applied to now. A lot of people don't realize that corporate tax rate also applies to these pass-through entities, and the small business owners are the backbone of our country, and they're going to have a huge benefit if this passes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% correct. It'll apply to law firms, hedge funds, or mom and pop grocery stores. I wonder if it's going to apply to a sole proprietorship, or it will finally force you, if you've been using that type of entity or lack of entity, to actually go and incorporate, which is a good thing for a lot of other reasons that we don't need to get into here. One thing that you have to understand is that the big corporations, the GEs, the Apples, the really big companies that do business worldwide don't pay income taxes, or at a dramatically reduced rate, because in the example of GE, they've got skyscrapers full of accountants and lawyers figuring out every loophole. And then when they don't have the proper loophole, they go to Congress and they get it passed. So they pay nothing in taxes. I think for most of my life, GE has paid little or no income tax. They lease out airplanes, they lease out rail cars, they do everything they can to avoid paying any taxes. Apple pays an effective rate of around 15% by not repatriating their profits. So the real people who pay the full boat of the tax rate on corporations, like you said, Eddie, is you and I.
Yes, and, that's why it's really a big deal, because the big corporations, it doesn't matter what the tax code is or what law they're going to pass. Like you said, they have the resources and the money to hire the best tax professionals on the planet to find loopholes and workarounds, where someone like myself or my clients, we don't have those resources. We have to live with whatever the code is, and we're not going to be able to take advantage of the loopholes that the large corporations do. So I think a lot of times the focus is always on how much these large corporations are going to save, and it's really not being focused enough on how much the middle-class business owner is going to benefit drastically if they pass this reform.
Yeah, you're so correct. And then we got simplifying the code to 3 brackets, just anything to get rid of the complexity of this thing. Einstein's head would spin from the tax code. But the next big one is doing away with the AMT, or alternative minimum tax. That's a windfall. That cost Trump himself back in 2005. I think it cost him $23 million. That's where when you approach a certain level of tax, It was originally passed by Congress because there were several super wealthy people who paid no income tax. So it gets rid of all your deductions, all of your credits and everything else, and then you pay a lower tax bracket. I think it's 20-something%. I don't remember, but that's huge also.
It really is. And I think the thing that, again, isn't talked about enough is what do business owners and a lot of the folks that are going to benefit from these changes, what do they do with this extra flow of revenue? You know, you talk to any small business owner out there and you talk about this corporate tax reform that they're very excited about, they're going to reinvest a lot of those proceeds back into their company. I think that's another misconception is, well, if you get that big drop, they're just going to increase their salaries. Well, if you know any business owner out there, usually their biggest asset on their balance sheet is their business, and they want to reinvest in their business. And that means reinvesting in new people, paying your key players a higher salary, and reinvesting in the economy. So it doesn't all just go in the business owner's pocket. It does circulate back through investing in people and product.
Absolutely. So it'll result in higher savings rate as well for these small business owners. It's really a boom for the small business person. Like we said, for the large corporation, their tax rate's almost discretionary. It's what they can get away with all the loopholes. The small business person doesn't have that. And then it's cutting the highest tax rate from 39.3% down to 35%. That's not a huge tax cut for the wealthy, but it's meaningful.
Yes, it is. And I mean, I think you made an important key point is simplifying this complex tax system that we're in now. I mean, you talk to any CPA out there and they'll tell you that it's overwhelming for them, all the different things in the tax code. And I think it's a real overkill. And by simplifying and getting rid of some of the deductions that they're proposing, it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. And I think more importantly, again, the people that need it most, the middle class, are going to really benefit from it.
Absolutely. I mean, look, if a wealthy person saves $1 million or $50 million in taxes, probably not going to make a big difference in their lifestyle. But if you, as a middle class business person, let's just say you're an employee, it's doubling the standard deduction. You're still going to get your mortgage interest deduction. You will lose your state and local tax deduction, your property taxes, but doubling of the standard deduction to, I think it's 12,000 plus, will effectively save you whatever you would have lost on that deduction. It's going to make a lot of people just file the standard easy tax form, whether it's on a postcard or electronically, whatever. It's going to cut down your tax preparation time dramatically, where you might even be able to do your taxes yourself if you're actually doing your taxes, you're an employee and you've got one source of income or simple finances.
Yeah, because most people out there, when you look at their financial situation, they're a W-2 employee. They've got maybe a mortgage but they are overwhelmed with the tax code and they are paying a CPA out of their pocket to do something that's more complicated than what it really should be. So I think you're right.
Yeah, that's a biggie for sure. I mean, we spend tens of billions of dollars in accounting fees collectively as a society, not to mention the amount of time that gets wasted here, Eddie. I mean, I don't know how much time you spend putting this crap together at the beginning of the next year, the new year, but I just hate it. It's one of the banes of my existence. I would love to just be able to dispense with as much of it as I can. If I can save half the time going through this nonsense, then I feel like I've really come out ahead.
Oh, without a doubt. And time is money for everybody, as you know. So they can use those hours for some things that are more productive.
Absolutely. Which, hey, it could be actually getting a little more sleep would be more productive than that.
That's right.
Or spending quality time with your children. Whatever it is you want to do, the last thing you want to be doing is preparing your tax stuff. Hey, and your final point here is that if this passes, you believe that there is going to be a bull market for the foreseeable future.
I do. I know there's a lot of bears out there, and I've debated them over the last couple of years. But, I mean, I don't think you can quantify, and I guess time will tell when it passes, how impactful this is going to be from a corporate tax standpoint and for the stock market. We haven't had this type of reform in a long period of time. And I think you're going to see the business communities, when this or if this passes, just become so excited and investing in their people, and you're going to see earnings grow. You're seeing good earnings right now, but now if you lower their corporate tax rate and there's more profitability, the PE ratios come down. And at the end of the day, this has probably been one of the most hated bull markets in history.
Oh, yeah.
And yet the path to least resistance continues to go up, and I continue to debate the bears as far as what is the catalyst that they're talking about that's going to cause a 2008 to happen again. And I think the catalyst for the next bull market run will be this corporate tax reform if it happens.
Hey, you're almost making a believer out of me, but leave it to politicians to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Look, Eddie, every tax cut we've ever had in this country has invariably resulted in more tax revenue over the long haul coming in to Washington, to the coffers. You think this one's going to be any different?
I do not. I just hope that they get this thing passed, just look at the fundamentals. This will change for us.
Well, will there be enough pressure from small business America to overcome the interests of the club, of the uniparty, of the Chamber of Commerce, who really couldn't care less about you or I, Eddie? All the Chamber of Commerce cares about is their globalist agenda. And this is downright anti-globalist when you get down to it, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And so I hope that the small business owners are able to put enough pressure on everyone to get this thing to happen. Because again, I can't even put a word in place as far as how big of an impact this is going to be.
Hey.
I talked to a gentleman who owns a landscaping company, not a ton of revenue. And he was explaining to me, just him as a small business owner, how big of an impact that's going to make for him and his family. And how many other people are out there in this country that have similar businesses that this would be an impactful change for them and their family.
Oh, it's very meaningful. It's very profound. And you know what else, Eddie? Basically, in this tax package, there's pretty much something for everyone. And that alone, Democrats, they could say what they like, and I'm not making it political, but the fact is they're the party, the opposition party, the party of no. Whatever Trump does, they are against it. But this is a system that I think there's something in it for just about everybody, except for the people who perhaps don't pay any taxes now, or the really big corporations who will have to pay more taxes when all is said and done, I think. Presumably, they're going to keep depreciation, interest deductions for businesses. So if that's the case, it's just how much GE saves, not really that they're going to be paying more, I think.
No, you're right. So if there is a loser in this, it may be those, huge companies, as you just mentioned. But at the end of the day, they're going to be fine no matter what the tax code is. I'm more worried about, selfishly, my clients and, the middle-class business owners and families out there, that it's time for a pay raise for them.
Yeah.
And I think this will indirectly do that.
Absolutely. On board with that. Hey, Eddie, if we want to find out more about you, check out your work, where's the best place to go?
You can go right to our website, which is keyadvisorsgroupllc.com.
LLC. It sounds like you're in for some tax savings as well, as are we. We use LLCs and S Corps ourselves. You got any questions or comments on this interview with Eddie? Just send us an email, KL@KerryLutz. The Twitter feed's @KerryLutz, and the Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. You're into podcasting, take a look at viralpodcasting.com. It's a great alternative for somebody who's looking for another income stream and you want to stay home and you're into the media. Eddie, always a pleasure speaking with you. Let's toast to the proposed tax cut and hope beyond all hope that it actually gets passed, which I believe some form of it will.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for having me on.
It's always a pleasure. Be well. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.